Right now, somewhere in Los Angeles, Jimin is rehearsing for 11 minutes that could become the biggest 11 minutes of his entire career. Not a fan theory, not a rumor. Confirmed, official, coming in just days. And if you're only now hearing about this, stay with me for the next few minutes, because what's about to happen on July 19th is bigger than anything BTS has done since they reunited, and Jimin is standing right at the center of it. Let's start with the part that still doesn't feel real even typing it out. FIFA and Global Citizen have officially confirmed that BTS will co-headline the first ever FIFA World Cup final halftime show, sharing the stage with Madonna, Shakira, and now Justin Bieber, who just joined the lineup as the fourth co-headliner. Read that sentence again. Madonna, who headlined the Super Bowl back in 2012. Shakira, who co-headlined with Jennifer Lopez in 2020. Justin Bieber, fresh off commanding the desert at Bieberchella. And BTS, Jimin included, standing shoulder to shoulder with all of them on one of the most watched stages a human being can occupy. This isn't a guest appearance. This isn't a surprise cameo. This is a co-headlining slot at the single biggest sporting event on the planet. Before we go further, if this is the kind of story that makes you want to know everything, every detail, every update, every moment as it breaks, hit subscribe right now, because we are covering every second of this leading up to July 19th, and you don't want to miss what's coming next in this video either. So here's what we actually know, and I want to be precise about this, because the internet loves to exaggerate, and I'd rather give you the real picture than a fake one dressed up to sound bigger. The performance is 11 minutes long. It's being curated by Chris Martin of Coldplay, who has described the whole concept as being about togetherness. His words, not mine, but that's the spirit behind it. It airs live during the World Cup final at what's officially called New York, New Jersey Stadium, which most of us know as MetLife Stadium, in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Kickoff is 3 p.m. Eastern, broadcast on Fox in English and Telemundo in Spanish. Alongside Madonna, Shakira, Bieber, and BTS, the show will also feature Burna Boy, legendary conductor Gustavo Dudamel, and the PS22 chorus performing alongside Coldplay. This is not a small production. This is arguably the most stacked collaborative lineup in halftime show history, for any sport, anywhere. And here's the number that should stop you in your tracks. FIFA reported that the 2022 World Cup final drew close to 1.5 billion viewers worldwide. 1.5 billion. That's the audience Jimin could be performing in front of. Not 1.5 billion people who already know who BTS is. 1.5 billion people who are tuning in for football, for the sport, for the final, and who are about to see Jimin on their screen, in their living room, in their language, in their country, possibly for the very first time. If you're new to this channel and you're realizing you don't actually know that much about Jimin, that's exactly why I'm making this video, and it's exactly why you should stick around, because I promise by the end of this you'll understand not just what's happening on July 19th, but why it matters so much for him specifically. Let's talk about why this moment lands the way it does, because context is everything here. BTS didn't just casually decide to show up for a paycheck at MetLife Stadium. This performance comes after arguably the hardest stretch of their entire career. Every member of BTS, Jimin included, spent close to 2 years apart completing South Korea's mandatory military service. 2 years of no group performances. 2 years of solo lives, quiet routines, and fans wondering when, or honestly, sometimes wondering if, the 7 of them would ever stand on a stage together again the way they used to. Jimin has talked about that fear openly. In a letter he shared with fans before the reunion, he admitted that after so much time away from the stage, from performing, from being fully immersed in music again, there was a real sense of fear creeping in. Not excitement dressed up as nerves, actual fear. And he said it anyway, because it was true, and because his determination to give fans the best possible performance hadn't wavered despite that fear. So when you understand that, July 19th stops being just BTS performs at the World Cup. It becomes the payoff to years of waiting, months of training, and a comeback that had to prove itself all over again from scratch. BTS's own statement about the booking captured that spirit. They described music as a universal language capable of connecting millions of people around the world in support of children's education. That's not just a nice line for a press release. It ties directly into what this whole halftime show actually stands for. Because here's something a lot of coverage is glossing over: this isn't just a concert. The show is tied to the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund, an initiative aiming to raise $100 million to expand access to quality education and football opportunities for children around the world. $1 from every single World Cup match ticket sold throughout the entire tournament goes directly into that fund. So when Jimin steps onto that stage, he's not just performing for spectacle. He's performing as part of something built specifically to fund kids' education globally. If you've followed BTS for any length of time, you know this actually fits who they are. From their UN speeches on youth and mental health to years of using their platform for causes bigger than themselves. This is very on brand, and it's part of why FIFA wanted them there in the first place. Now let's talk about the timing, because the road to this stage has been anything but quiet. Just days before this FIFA announcement, BTS wrapped 2 massive nights at Allianz Arena in Munich as part of their Ererang World Tour, and if you saw any of the clips flooding social media, you already know Jimin was at the center of one of the tour's most viral moments. During soundcheck, a fan held up a banner comparing Jimin to Thor and to footballer Erling Haaland, and later that night, in front of tens of thousands of people, Jimin spontaneously recreated Haaland's signature walk on stage. It blew up. Sports outlets picked it up. Football accounts were posting it. That's the kind of crossover appeal Jimin already has. Sports fans who've never listened to a BTS song stopping to pay attention because of a football joke on viral. Now imagine that same crossover appeal, except instead of a stadium of 70,000 people, it's a broadcast audience potentially in the billions during the single biggest football match on earth. If you're enjoying learning about all of this, do me a favor and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because I want to see just how far the story is actually reaching. And if you haven't already, now's a great time to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next update the moment new details drop. Let's be honest about what we don't know yet too, because I promised you accuracy over hype. As of right now, the exact set list for the halftime show hasn't been confirmed. We don't know for certain whether BTS will perform tracks from their newest album, Ererang, lean into older fan-favorite hits, or do something built entirely new for the occasion. Shakira herself has only teased that the show will be, in her words, pretty historic, which tells us the ambition level, but not the specifics. What we do know is that this is being built as a genuinely collaborative piece, not 4 separate mini-sets stitched together, which makes the mystery even more interesting. Will Jimin share a moment on stage directly with Madonna? With Bieber? With Shakira? Nobody's confirmed it, but the entire structure of this show, curated around the idea of togetherness, suggests these artists aren't just performing back-to-back, they're sharing the stage in ways we haven't seen from BTS before. And that's honestly what makes this so different from anything BTS has done in the West up to this point. They've had massive American moments before, the Grammys, The Tonight Show, sold out stadiums across the US on this very tour. But this is different in scale and in audience. A Grammy performance reaches people who already care about music awards. A stadium show reaches the people who bought tickets. The World Cup final reaches people who care about football and nothing else. Construction workers on their lunch break, grandparents who've never heard the word K-pop, kids watching with their families who are about to see Jimin's face on screen with zero prior context except that he's standing next to Madonna and Shakira. That is a category of exposure BTS has genuinely never had before. Not because they weren't big enough, because this specific stage, this specific audience, simply didn't exist for them until now. Think about what that means for someone like Jimin specifically. This is a member who has spent years building a solo identity alongside his group work, his album Muse charting internationally, his song Who racking up billions of streams, brand partnerships with houses like Dior that have nothing to do with music at all. He's already proven he can cross into spaces outside the traditional K-pop lane. The World Cup halftime show isn't introducing Jimin to crossover appeal. It's putting a spotlight on crossover appeal that was already there and amplifying it to a scale nobody could have manufactured through any other single event. If you want to actually understand where Jimin is heading next, not just this performance, but everything building up to it and everything that comes after, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because there's a lot more happening around this comeback era than just July 19th, and I don't want you finding out about it 3 days late from someone else's video. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about why Chris Martin specifically was the one trusted to curate this. Coldplay isn't a stranger to massive collaborative stages. Martin has spent years building performances designed around unity, scale, and emotional peaks, rather than just spectacle for its own sake. Putting him in charge of an 11-minute show featuring Madonna, Shakira, Bieber, and BTS tells you FIFA wasn't looking for 4 separate performances glued together with a highlight reel aesthetic. They wanted someone who could actually build a narrative arc across 11 minutes with 4 generational artists from 4 completely different corners of the music industry. That's an enormous creative challenge, and the fact that BTS, Jimin included, is trusted enough to be part of that narrative, not just a guest verse tacked onto someone else's set, says a lot about where FIFA and global citizens see them sitting in the global music landscape right now. And that landscape, by the way, has been shifting fast. BTS spent this entire year breaking chart records that put them in genuinely rare company. Their album Arirang became the first K-pop album in history to spend 3 consecutive weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200. Their lead single Swim debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, marking their 7th chart-topping single as a group. They've now spent 14 consecutive weeks on the Billboard charts since the album's release. These aren't vanity numbers. They're the kind of commercial proof points that convince organizations like FIFA that booking BTS isn't a risk, it's a guaranteed audience. When you combine chart dominance with global name recognition with a built-in emotional comeback story, you get exactly the kind of booking decision that led to July 19th. Now, I know some of you are here specifically for Jimin, and you're wondering, will he actually get his own spotlight moment in those 11 minutes? Or will this just be a group appearance where he's one face among many? Honestly, nobody outside the production team knows that yet. And I'm not going to sit here and promise you a solo Jimin moment just to get you excited, because that wouldn't be fair to you. What I can tell you is that based on how BTS has structured recent tour stops, Munich, Brussels, every stop on this Arirang tour, individual members have consistently been given dedicated moments to shine, whether that's Jimin's ending meant thanking fans in his own words, or unscripted moments like the Holland Walk that became entirely his own viral instance separate from the group. If that pattern holds even slightly for a show this collaborative and this carefully produced, there's real reason to expect Jimin gets at least some individual visibility within those 11 minutes, even if the full group carries the majority of the performance. Here's the thing I keep coming back to when I think about this whole moment. 2 years ago, during military service, Jimin was writing letters to fans wondering out loud if he still had what it takes to give people the best possible stage. 2 years later, he's about to walk out in front of what could be the largest audience a member of BTS has ever performed for in a single moment, sharing a stage that Madonna and Shakira have each already made history on individually. That's not a small full-circle story. That's one of the biggest full-circle stories in modern pop music, and it's happening in real time, in a matter of days from when you're watching this. So here's what I want you to do before you close this video. If any part of this made you feel even a little bit of that anticipation, comment below and tell me what you think we're actually going to see on that stage. Are we getting a full Arirang medley? A stripped-down moment between just Jimin and Chris Martin? Something nobody's even speculating about yet? I read every single comment on these videos, and I want to know your prediction before July 19th actually happens, because I'm making a follow-up video the moment the performance airs, breaking down exactly what happened, moment by moment, and I want to see how many of your predictions actually come true. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, this is genuinely the moment to do it, because between now and July 19th, there's going to be more news, more rehearsal leaks, more official details dropping from FIFA and Global Citizen, and I promise you I'll have it covered here before almost anywhere else. Like this video if you're as excited about this as I am. Share it with the one friend who still doesn't believe BTS is actually performing at the World Cup final, and I will see you in the next video, counting down the days until Jimin steps onto the biggest stage of his career.